Metasploit Introduction, an introduction to the main components of the Metasploit framework. Task 1. Introduction to Metasploit. Metasploit is the most widely used exploitation framework. Metasploit is a powerful tool that you can support all phases of the penetration testing engagement, from information gathering to post-exploitation. Metasploit has two main versions. Metasploit Pro, the commercial version that facilitates the automation and management of tasks. This version has a GUI graphical user interface. Metasploit Framework, the open source version that works from the command line. This room will focus on this version installed on the attack box and most commonly used penetration testing Linux distribution. The Metasploit framework is a set of tools that allows information gathering, scanning, exploitation, exploit development, post-exploitation, and more. While the primary usage of the Metasploit framework focuses on the penetration testing domain, it is also useful for vulnerable research and exploit development. The main component of the Metasploit framework can be summarized as follows. Msfconsole, the main command line interface, modules, supporting modules such as exploits, scanners, payloads, etc. Tools, standalone tools that will help vulnerability research, vulnerability assessment, or penetration testing. Some of these tools are MSF Venom, Pattern Create, and Pattern Offset. We will cover MSF Venom within this module, but Pattern Create and Pattern Offsets are tools useful in exploit development, which is beyond the scope of this module. This room will cover the main components of Metasploit while providing you with a solid foundation on how to find relevant exploits, set parameters, and exploit vulnerable services on the target system. Once you have completed this room, you will be able to navigate and use the Metasploit command line comfortably. You can deploy and use the attack box to complete this task and answer the questions. Task 2. Main components of Metasploit. While using the Metasploit framework, you will primarily interact with the Metasploit console. You can launch it from the attack box terminal using the Msfconsole command. The console will be your main interface to interact with the different modules of the Metasploit framework. Modules are small components within the Metasploit framework that are built to perform a specific task, such as exploiting a vulnerability, scanning a target, or performing a brute force attack. Before dividing into modules, it would be useful to clarify a few recurring concepts: vulnerability, exploits, and payload. Exploit, a piece of code that uses a vulnerability present on the target system. Vulnerability, a design, coding, or logic flaw affecting the target system. The exploitation of a vulnerability can result in disclosing confidential information or allowing the attacker to execute code on the target system. Payload, an exploit will take advantage of a vulnerability. However, if we want to exploit to have the resource we want, gaining access to the target system, read confidential information, etc., we need to use a payload. Payloads are the codes that will run on the target system. Modules and categories under each one are listed below. These are given for reference purpose, but you will interact with them through the Metasploit console, Msfconsole. Auxiliary. Any supporting modules such as scanner, scroller, and fuzzers can be found above. Encoders will allow you to encode the exploit and payload in the hope that a signature-based antivirus solution may miss them. Signature-based antivirus and security solutions have a database of known threats. They detect threats by comparing suspicious files to this database and raise an alert if there is a match. Thus, encoders can have a limited success rate as antivirus solutions can perform additional checks. Evasions. While encoders will encode the payload, they should not be considered a direct attempt to evade antivirus software. On the other hand, evasion modules will try that with more or less success. Exploits neatly organized by target systems. NOPs, no operations, do nothing literally. They are represented in the Intel x86 CPU family. They are represented by 0x90 following the CPU will do nothing for one cycle. They are often used as a buffer to achieve consistent payload size. Payloads are codes that will run on the target system. Exploit will leverage a vulnerability on the target system, but to achieve the desired results, we need to have a payload. Examples could be getting a shell, loading a malware or backdoor to the target system, running a command, or launching cal.exe as a proof of concept to add to the penetration test report. Starting the calculator on the target system remotely by launching the calc.exe application is a benign way to show that we can run commands on the target system. Running commands on the target system is already an important step, but have an interactive connection that allows you to type commands that will be executed on the target system is better. Such an interactive command line is called a shell. Metasploit offers the ability to send different payloads that can open shells on the target system. You will see 3 different directories under payloads: single, staggers, and stages. Singles, self-contained payloads, add users, launch, notepad, exes, etc. that do not need to download an additional component to run. Stagers, responsible for setting up a connection channel between Metasploit and the target system. Useful when working with staged payloads. Staged payloads will first upload a stager on the target system, then download the rest of the payload stage. This provides some advantages, and the initial size of the payload will be relatively small compared to the full payload sent at once. Stages, downloaded by the stager. This will allow you to use a large size payload. Metasploit has a subtle way to help you identify single, also called inline payloads, and staged payloads. Now here we have generic shell reverse TCP, and then we have Windows x64 shell reverse TCP. Both are reverse Windows shell. The former is an inline or single payload as indicated by the parentheses between shell and reverse, while the latter is a staged payload as indicated by the parenthesis / between shell and reverse, both in parentheses. Post modules will be useful on the final stage of the penetration testing process listed above, post exploitation. If you wish to familiarize yourself further with these modules, you can find them under the modules folder on your Metasploit installation. For the attack box, these are under /op /Metasploit framework 5001 modules. Once we have our attack box open, let's open up a terminal, and the command to launch Metasploit, it's Msfconsole. So we'll type Msfconsole. Okay, so this is going to take some time. We'll pause the video and let it load. So we have our box loaded with Metasploit. So the first question is, what is the name of the code taking advantage of a flaw on the target system? The answer can be found on the top. And we look here, exploit, a piece of code that uses a vulnerability present on the target system. So we scroll back down and let's input exploit. Submit. Oh, I spelled it wrong. Exploit. What is the name of the code that runs on the target system to achieve the attacker's goal? If we scroll back up, we'll see payload. An exploit will take advantage of a vulnerability. However, if we want the exploit to have the result we want, gaining access to the target system, read confidential information, etc., we need to use payloads. Payloads are the codes that will run on the target system. let's input payload. And that is correct. What are the self-contained payloads called? And once again, we scroll up here, you will see 3 different categories on the payloads: single, stagers, and stages. Singles, self-contained payloads, add users, launch notepad, etc. that do not need to download an additional component to run. So that is self-contained. Let's input singles. And that is correct. Is Windows /x64/pinback reverse TCP among singles or stage payloads? And that would be singles. Task 3, Msfconsole. As previously mentioned, the console will be your main interface to the Metasploit framework. You can launch it using the Msfconsole command on your attack box, terminal, or any system the Metasploit framework is installed on. You see we have it deployed here already. Okay, once launched, you will see the command line change to MSF5 or MSF6 depending on the installed version of Metasploit. The Metasploit console, Msfconsole, can be used just like a regular command line shell, as you can see below. The first command is the ls, which lists the contents of the folder from which Metasploit was launched using the Msfconsole. So we'll go ahead and input ls, and here we have everything listed. It is followed by a ping sent to Google DNS IP 8.8.8. As we operate from the attack box, which is Linux, we had the add the -C1 option. So only a single ping was sent. Otherwise, the ping process will continue until it is stopped using Control-C. So let's try that. Ping -C 8.8.8. 8.8.8. And mine didn't take. I guess maybe this box is not on the internet. Let's do it without the -C option. Oh, I think I know why, because we have to add one. We just want one single. Okay, that works. And if we go, just do a ping. So basically it'll keep going, and until we stop it, we'll hit Control-C, and that stops the ping. It will support most Linux commands, including clear to clear the terminal screen, but will now allow you to use some features of a regular command. It does not support output redirection as seen below. So here we have redirect, that's not allowed. Let's try it. So help, and let's redirect that to help.txt, and we got the same thing, no such command. While on the subject, the help command can be used on its own or for a specific command. Below is the help menu to set command we will cover soon. So help set, and we see here the description. Okay, let's move along. You can use the history command to see commands you have typed earlier. History. So let's give that a try. What have we typed? And here's our history. An important feature of Msfconsole is the support of tab completion. This will come in handy later when using Metasploit commands or dealing with modules. For example, if you start typing HE and press the tab key, you will see it completes to help. Let's give that a try with HE, and yes, it works. Msfconsole is managed by context. This means that unless set as a global variable, all parameter settings will be lost if you change the modules you have decided to use. In the example below, we have used the ms17_010_eternal blue exploit, and we have set the parameters such as our host. If we were to switch to another module An example, a port scanner, we would need to set the rhost value again, as all changes we have made remained in the context of the MS17 010 Eternal Blue exploit. Let us look at the example below to have a better understanding of this feature. We will use the MS17-010 external exploit for illustration purpose. It's Eternal Blue exploit. Okay. Once you type the use exploit Windows /SMB and Eternal Blue command, you will see the command line prompt change from MSF6 to, okay. The Eternal Blue is an exploit allegedly developed by the US National Security Agency, NSA, for a vulnerability affecting the SMB v1 server on numerous Windows systems. The SMB server message block is widely used in Windows network for file sharing and even for sending files to computers. Eternal Blue was leaked by the cyber criminal group Shadow Brokers in April 2017. In May 2017, the vulnerability was exploited worldwide in a WannaCry ransom attack. Okay, so let's follow along and let's see what we could set. If we do use exploit /Windows SMB MS17 underscore 010 Eternal Blue. Okay, no payload configure. Okay, so we have the same thing, and now that changed to this, so we're using the Eternal Blue exploit. Okay, the module to be used can also be selected with the use command, followed by the number of the beginning of the search result line. While the prompt has changed, you will notice we can still run the command previously mentioned. This means we did not enter a folder as you would typically expect in a operating system command line. So they did ls. Okay, this prompt tells us we now have a context set in which we will work. You can see this by typing the show options command. So they did show options, and here are all the options. Let's go show options, and we get the similar output. Okay, this will print options related to the exploit we have chosen earlier. The show options command will have different outputs depending on the context it is used in. The example above shows that this exploit will require we set variables like rhost and rport. On the other hand, a post exploitation module may only need us to set a session ID, and we see the screenshot below. A session is an existing connection to the target system that the post exploitation module will use. We have show here. We have our sessions. Okay. The show command can be used in any context followed by a module type, auxiliary, payload, exploit, etc. to list available modules. The example below lists payloads that can be used with MS17-010 Eternal Blue exploits. So we have show payload, input show payloads, and we show all our payloads here. See if we can maximize this. Okay, the biggest we'll get. If used from the Msfconsole prompt, the show command will list all modules. The use and show options command have been so far are identical for all modules in Metasploit. You can leave the context using the back command. So we go back and it brings us back. Okay. Further information on any module can be obtained by typing the info command within the context. And this is the output of info. Alternatively, you can use the info command followed by the module path from the Msfconsole prompt. An example, info exploit and path to eternal blue. Info is not a help module. It will display detailed information on the module, such as its author, relevant sources, etc. Search. One of the most useful commands in Msfconsole is search. This command will search the Metasploit framework database for modules relevant to the given search parameter. You can conduct searches using CVE numbers, exploit names like Eternal Blue, Heartbleed, etc. on your target system. So here we got search MS17-010. Let's input MS17-010. And of course, because we forgot the search. That again. Oh, and we misspelled that. And there we go. The output of the search command provides an overview of each return module. You may notice the name column already gives more information than just the module name. You can see the type of module, auxiliary, exploit, etc., and the categories of the module, scanner, admin, Windows, Unix, etc. You can use any module returning a search result with the command use followed by the number at the beginning of the result line. Use 0 instead of, okay. Another essential piece of information returned is in the rank column. Exploits are rated based on their reliability. The table below provides their respective descriptions, and you could read along. Okay. So they rank them from low to excellent. You can direct the search function using keywords such as types and platform. For example, if we wanted our search results to only include auxiliary modules, we can set the type to auxiliary. The screenshot below shows the output of the search type auxiliary. And we got auxiliary telnet. So let's give that a try. Search. And the type we want is auxiliary. Auxiliary telnet. Where we went wrong, search type. So auxiliary. There we go. Our outputter. Okay. Please remember that exploits take advantage of a vulnerability on the target system and may always show unexpected behavior. A low ranking exploit may work perfectly and an excellent rank exploit may not, or worse, and crash the target system. How would you search for a module related to Apache? Well, first, we want to input search. Actually, let's try here. So if we do search Apache, and that gives us an output. Also, it states the excellent. See, we can scroll up. And right here, it gives us all the matching modules. So let's input search. Search Apache. And that is correct. Who provided the auxiliary scanner SSH underscore login module? So if you recall, there was a info command that just gives us information on the author. So let's do info auxiliary scanner SSH underscore login. If that, okay, so we got an output. Now what we need to do is find the author. Okay, so I maximized the screen and we got a better view now. When we ran info, we see here is provided by Todd B. So let's input TODB, and that is correct. Task 4, working with modules. So here we have a another machine. Let's get that machine started and we'll move along. You can launch the target machine attached to this room to replicate the example shown below. Any Metasploit version 5 or 6 will have menus and screens similar to those shown here, so you can use the attack box or any operating system on your local computer. Once you have entered the context of a module using the use command followed by the module name as seen earlier, you will need to set parameters. The most common parameters you will use are listed below. Remember, based on the module you use, additional or different parameters may need to be set. It's a good practice to use the show option command to list the required parameters. All parameters are set using the same command syntax. So we'll use set and then the parameter name and value. Before we proceed, remember always to check the Msfconsole prompt to ensure you're in the right context. When dealing with Metasploit, you will see 5 different prompts. The regular prompt, okay, this is root. Obviously, we cannot use Metasploit commands here. And then the MSF prompt and MS5 is the Msfconsole prompt. As you can see, no context is set here. So context specific commands to set parameters and run modules cannot be used here. Okay, so you can see we are on the Msfconsole. Okay, a context prompt. Once you have decided to use a module and use the set command to choose it, the Msfconsole will show the context. You can use context specific commands, for example, rhost and then the IP. So here they're using eternal blue. Okay. The Metasploit prompt. Metasploit is an important payload you will see in details later in this module. This means Metasploit agent was loaded to the target system and connected back to you. You can use Metasploit specific commands here. Okay. A shell on the target system. Once the exploit is completed, you may have access to a command shell on the target system. This is a regular command line and all command types here run on the target system. See here we have a C drive to the Windows System 32 file system. As mentioned earlier, the show option command will list all available parameters. So they did show options and here are all the parameters, payloads and exploits. Okay. As you can see in the screenshot above, some of the parameters require a value for the exploit to work. Some required parameter values will be pre-populated. Make sure you check if these should remain the same for your target. For example, a wet exploit cannot have an R port, remote port. The port on the target system Metasploit will try to connect to and run the exploit. Value preset to 80, but your target web application could be using port 8080. In this example, we will set the rhost parameters to the IP address of our target system using the set command. So you set rhost with the IP, this value, IP, okay. Once you have set a parameter, you can use show options command to check the value was set correctly. Parameters we'll often use. So we have rport, rhost, rport, payload, lhost, lport, and session. You can override any set parameter using the set command again with a different value. You can also clear any parameter value using the unset command or clear all parameters with the unset all command. They unset all, flushed everything, show options. Okay. You can use the setg command to set values that will be used for all modules. The setg command is used like the set command. The difference is that you use the set command to set a value using a module and you switch to another module. You will need to set the value again. The setg command allows you to set the value so it can be used by default across different modules. You can clear any value set with setg using unsetg. The example below uses the following flow. We use the MS17 serial 10 eternal blue exploitable. We set the rhost variable using setg command instead of the set command. We use the back command to leave the exploit content, and then we use an auxiliary. The show option command shows the rhost parameter It's already populated with the IP address of the target system. And if we see here, they go pretty much with the example, they stay here. The setg command sets a global value that will be used until you exit Metasploit or clear it using the unsetg command using modules. Once all module parameters are set, you can launch the module using the exploit command. Metasploit also supports the run command, which is an alias created for the exploit command, as the word exploit did not make sense when using modules that were not exploits, and that's port scanners, vulnerability scanners, etc. The exploit command can be used with any parameters or using the -c parameter. The exploit -z command will run the exploit and background the session as soon as it opens. Here, and okay, this will return you the context prompt from which you have run the exploit. The module supports the check option. This will check if the target system is vulnerable without exploiting it. Now we're going on session. Once vulnerabilities have been successfully exploited, a session will be created. This is the communication channel established between the target system and Metasploit. You can use the background command to background the session prompt and go back to the Msfconsole prompt. Okay, alternatively, Control-Z can be used to background sessions. The sessions command can be used from the Msfconsole prompt or any context to see the existing session. Go here. To interact with any sessions, you can use the session -n command followed by the desired session number. And here we have a screenshot. First question, how will you set the L port value to 6666? Okay, so that should be set. And we want to do L port 6666. And we got an output that it was set to 6666. So let's input set L port 6666. How would you set the global value of our host to 10.10.19.23? Now we need to not just use set, but the setg to global. And while we're at it, let's put it here. Setg, and we're gonna do our host, and the IP is 10.10.19.23, and that's set it globally. So setg 10.10.19.23. We forgot the R host. All right, yes. Okay, what command would you use to clear a set payload? And if you recall, we used the unset. So unset and payload, and we submit, and that is correct. What command do you use to proceed with the exploitation phase? And that should be exploit to proceed with the exploit. And that concludes this module. Summary. As we have seen so far, Metasploit is a powerful tool that facilitates the exploitation process. The exploitation process comprises three main steps: finding the exploit, customizing the exploit, and exploiting the vulnerable services. Metasploit provides many modules that can use for each step of the exploitation process. Through this room, we have seen the basic components of Metasploit and their respective use. It would be best if you also had used the MS-17 010 eternal exploit to gain access to the target VM. In the following rooms, we will cover Metasploit and its components in more detail. Once completed, this module should give you a good understanding of the capabilities of Metasploit. And no answer is needed. And congratulations, we completed the room.